Hello there. So I'm Michael. I'm here to talk to you guys about learning Spanish. Let's see. So, raise the hands. Who here took Spanish in high school? All right, a lot of people, right? Okay, who here took Spanish in high school and now they're fluent and they can speak Spanish like a pro? We got a couple. All right, that's awesome. That was my experience. I took it in high school, but afterwards, a lot of people in the room, when you raise your hands, it was like, yeah, I took it, but afterwards, like, yeah, I could ask someone like how they're doing. I can ask, ¿Dónde está el baño? Right? I know where's the bathroom. But having an actual two-way conversation is pretty difficult in another language if it's not your first language, right? There's a lot of people that I know who move to America from other countries and they have to learn English. English is crazy. Like, I don't know how they do that, but Spanish, I got it, all right? And I'm going to show you guys a little bit about my journey and how you guys can learn Spanish really fast if that's what you want to do as well. Before I move on, one more thing. Just want to start having you guys think about a concept that I want to touch on a lot during this presentation, and that is the potential that you will unlock if you're able to learn Spanish, even if it's just enough to establish a connection with people right at the beginning of that relationship. If you're able to speak to them in their native language, show them that you care enough about them and their culture, that you've taken the time to study and interact with them in their native language, it's going to unlock a lot of doors for you. I mean, if you look out here, we're in Miami, right? Like, look at all these, like, everywhere you look, there's like a million little rooms, and there's people living in all those rooms. And we're in Miami, right? So there's a ton of people here, and a lot of them speak Spanish. I'll get to you in just one second, right? So just think about how many people there are in this city alone, right? And we could use any city as an example, but especially in Miami and in certain areas, if you live in a big city like that, there's like a million businesses. How many taco shops are around the corner from you, right? How many places where can you go, you driving by and it says carniceria, right? They're everywhere, okay? So just think about that as we're going through here, and just think about the potential right in your neighborhood of people you could connect with and have better relationships with if you were to learn Spanish. All right, what's up with the question? So if you learn the basics of Spanish, you'll be able to start to build that relationship, right? If you want to get really good with a certain dialect of Spanish, you'll have to spend a little bit of time learning some of the slang words and really try to find someone you can connect with that's from there and just practice talking with them. But I've never been to a Spanish-speaking country. I learned Spanish here in the U.S., so if that's one of your blocks of like, I don't think I can learn Spanish because I don't get enough like exposure, or people talk about immersion, right? You're like, I can't get enough immersion here. Like I'm up here on the stage telling you like I learned it here. Like I've literally never been somewhere where they speak Spanish. I learned it here in the U.S. and I can show you how to do it too. All right. All right. Did that answer your question? Good to go? Cool. All right. So this is a punk little teenage kid. That was me. I started trying to learn Spanish when I was 9 years old. All right. And I did the classes. I did the apps. We had like computer programs when I was growing up that we would use. Like we talked about before, I got to a certain point, like I could ask someone how they're doing, I could ask where the bathroom was, but as far as having a two-way conversation, I just never was able to get over that hump and get to a point where I felt comfortable communicating with people in Spanish. I spent countless hours, but I was not retaining what I was learning, and I studied what and how I was told by the people or the textbook or whatever was telling me how to learn Spanish, right? It left me feeling helpless. Like I felt like I'm either going to have to spend forever learning this, or like, I don't know, so the sky's going to have to fall. Something's going to happen before I'm going to be able to learn Spanish. I spent almost a decade studying Spanish the wrong way. All right, I told myself I wasn't going to do this, but I got to poke a little fun at this teenage redhead kid, all right? So Harry Potter, I used to think it was real when I was growing up, okay? I used to think it was real. And then it dawned on me, that's a story about a redhead with two friends. There's no way it can be real. Anyways, okay, sorry. All right. Okay, so this is me when I started changing, right? I changed how I learned Spanish. I got called on to be a missionary for my church. I got the white shirt, the tie, and the black name tag, all right? I was assigned to work in the Spanish language in the Seattle, Washington area. So before I flew to Seattle, they put me through a 9-week crash course. While I was at the 9-week crash course, they taught me to approach learning Spanish differently. I would wake up every single morning and I had like mock lessons with people who actually spoke Spanish scheduled in the afternoon, and I had a topic that I had to teach them, all right? So now in the morning when I'm getting ready for my lesson in the afternoon, I'm not learning whatever the textbook tells me to learn. I'm learning what I want to learn so that I can accomplish my goal in the afternoon, which is to discuss a specific topic in Spanish, all right? Now, one thing that is very important is relevance is going to help with retention. So if you can study stuff in Spanish that applies to you and your personal goals of why you want to learn Spanish, which is going to be different than the person sitting next to you, and it's going to be different from my goals, right? If you focus on your goals for learning Spanish, then you will be able to retain it better. So that's what I mean here when I say you need to have purpose-driven goals. And then the next thing was focus on speaking. So if you spend all your time filling in blanks in a textbook, practice worksheet, or doing little exercises on your app, you will learn something. It's just going to take a lot of time. We talked about how much time was required to learn just a little bit earlier on. In 9 weeks, when I got out of that crash course, I flew to Seattle. The guy who did my in-field training, the phone rang, he looked at it, he saw it was one of the people that he had been working with that only speaks Spanish, handed me the phone, said, "Let me know what they need," and he walked away, right? So all of a sudden, I'm like, all right, let's see if this school worked, right? I answered the phone, and I had a conversation. The conversation wasn't perfect, but it doesn't have to be, all right? I was able to communicate with them. They were able to communicate with me. We understood each other. At the end of the phone call, I told him what the person needed, and he said, "Awesome, you're in charge of the phone now," right? And I don't know what it was, but I was like, this is my phone. I don't ever want him taking this phone back from me because, like, this is my job, you know? So find something you can do to focus on speaking in Spanish. If you're a religious person and you learn how to pray in Spanish, now you can talk to God in Spanish, right? And you're practicing speaking Spanish every single day. And you will be able to focus on specific messages that you want to communicate with God, right? It doesn't have to be that. If you're not religious, there's a million different ways to practice Spanish here in the U.S. You don't have to go anywhere to do it, and I can help you develop some strategies, okay? I did this mission thing for 2 years. About a few months in, they swapped me to be this guy's missionary companion. It was actually immediately after I finished my infield training, they had me finish up his infield training. And from that point on, I was the senior companion, and I was teaching people who were junior, who knew less Spanish than I did, how to speak Spanish. So I kind of got thrown in the fire, and I was helping people learn Spanish really quickly. The result after I got home is, let me back up. One more joke. So they were in Yellowstone. They've been having a really big problem with the guests approaching the bison or the buffalo or whatever. So they started dressing them up like the missionaries here, and they don't have that problem anymore. No one goes up to the bison. Okay. Last thing before I go on is while I was on my mission president's wife, as I was getting ready to go home, she looked at me when we were sitting down just one-on-one, and she told me, Elder Doermann, that's what they call me at the time, that she said, "Elder Doermann, you are a fantastic teacher, and I just need you to know that." And up to that point, I had never really seen myself as an excellent teacher, but when she said it, I believed her. And ever since then, it's just been part of my identity. I love teaching other people. If I learn something and it's beneficial to me, like I just can't help myself. If someone else expresses that they want to learn it, and I feel like I can help them, I love teaching. This is a picture of me as I was finishing up college. I found opportunities to teach Spanish to younger students. This is actually a picture of me teaching Shakespeare. I taught Shakespeare too. I've taught a lot of stuff, but I really like teaching Spanish. I've taught it in the classroom. I did it for 3 years, and something that was a little bit interesting to me, but also just kind of helps with my confidence a little bit, is there's people who will move to America from Spanish-speaking countries, and then maybe grandma speaks perfect Spanish, not a lot of English. Mom and dad, they like went to high school here, and so they speak Spanish because they speak it at home, but they're really good with English. And then third generation, the parents actually struggle to teach their kids Spanish because they just are so exposed to English, right? So I actually had these kinds of kids in my classes, and now me, the pale, white-skinned redhead, is teaching the Latino kid how to speak Spanish. It was like crazy. and they kept coming back, right? So I was like, okay, I'm doing something right. So here's what I'm passionate about. I'm really passionate about teaching people language, especially entrepreneurs, because it unlocks so many doors for you, and it can expand your business amazing. We're gonna go over some numbers in a minute. I really like bridging cultural gaps. Some of the people I met while I was on my mission and since then, who come from Latin America and they move to the US, these people are absolutely incredible. I mean, we have some examples here within this conference. Paul Alex, we've got, they didn't necessarily move here, but they're part of that culture, right? John Sarabia. This Latino culture of just excellence and hard work is contagious. And when I get to interact with those people, I just feel, I cry a lot. I feel very fortunate, and I hope if you are able to learn Spanish, you'll get more of that in your life, right? So the business part of it's one part of it, but bridging the cultural gap and getting exposed to those amazing, beautiful people is another thing that I'm hoping you'll get out of it as well. Confident communicators, right? If you're scared of speaking in English, how about let's learn some Spanish. Practice speaking Spanish, build up your confidence in Spanish. It'll actually help you feel more confident speaking in English too. It worked for me. I used to be super shy, like Jackie shy. I was super shy, all right? But now I'm up here on the stage talking to all of you, and I'm loving it, right? Unlock the Spanish speaking world, we already touched on that. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I refined a method that works pretty good. It'll minimize the amount of time you have to spend and maximize the results that you get, okay? All right, so here's where we start getting into the numbers. As business owners, as entrepreneurs, as people who want to live the new American dream like Paul's talking about and break the barriers of financial freedom and all that stuff, $4.1 trillion, all right? So that's a statistic of if we take all of the other money out of the U.S. and we're only looking at the amount of money that Hispanic or Latin American people here in the U.S. spend, we're looking at $4.1 trillion, all right? That's a lot of money, all tied up within one culture, all right? And they all share the same language. I did some quick math. There's 387 major cities or metropolitan areas in the United States. So if we chunk this up so that each of the 387 major cities gets a chunk, that's $10.6 billion that's in whatever major city is closest to you, all right? It's probably going to fluctuate a little bit, but you've got a $10.6 billion market in your area just waiting for you, all right? If you can get 0.001% of that for yourself, right? Which if we do the merchant services thing with them, we can get 1%, right? But if you can get 0.001% of that $10.6 billion, now you're making over $100,000 a year, and that's just from your Hispanic clients, right? Then any other clients you get is just ice cream on top, but you're doing over $100,000 a year at just a very small fraction of this. So there's a lot of potential out there, okay? Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Yep. All right, cool. All right, language is currency. So if you are able to go in and talk to a Latino business owner and share something with them. You guys have seen how much I like jokes. Some of my jokes are terrible, and I appreciate those of you who have laughed. I really, really appreciate that. But I also like to tell jokes in Spanish. That's one thing. If you are nervous about learning Spanish, I have some very easy, as far as like the grammar and the vocabulary goes, jokes that I can teach you in Spanish. So if all you know how to do is be like, hey, I'm learning Spanish. I really don't know a whole lot, but could I tell you a joke, then that just opens the door, right? And now maybe you're feeling a little bit less nervous, and they're also feeling a little bit less nervous. The guard's down now, and now you can have that business conversation, and you're not just coming in straight off the street and be like, hey, can I talk to you about merchant services, right? You open the door, you build the connection, and that you build that trust, right? Language is currency, trust is currency. You're going to have better, if we can get you to a point where you feel confident and fluent and you can actually have business conversations in Spanish, now you're getting the language barrier out of the way. You don't need an interpreter, you're the interpreter, and they're going to respect you so much more because of that. And then we already talked about the expanding the network. Like, if you can speak Spanish, it gives you access to this whole world, this whole culture, this whole community of people who are so friendly and they're very loyal too. One thing that I want to touch on is if you can get in the door with these people, it's like I grew up in a place where it was like half and half. It was like a small rural city where we had like more cows and goats than we had people, that kind of thing. And it was like half and half, people from Latin American descent and then people like me, right? My friends used to say, make fun of me sometimes, and they'd be like, hey man, you better not mess with me. If you mess with one bean, you get the whole burrito, okay? But from my experience, I spent a lot of time with Latin American people. They're very loyal, right? So if you can build a connection with one of them, they're gonna have those other businesses that they know, maybe it's a relative or just someone they go to church with that also speaks Spanish, that now they know you speak Spanish, they're gonna refer you over the other agent they've been working with that only speaks English. Does that make sense? So you now have an unfair competitive advantage because you spent the time and you invested in yourself and you learned Spanish, all right? So trying to build a little bit of a why here, all right? If we ignore the business side of it for a second and we think about just the beautiful places you can go and the experiences you can have if when you go on the cruise ship or the airplane, you get off and you can only interact with the tour guide who speaks English, right? Your experiences are going to be limited in what you can do. But if you can go to anyone you see and talk to them and connect with them, you'll be able to have more rich experiences. I spent some time on a trip for work where I went somewhere where I didn't speak the language a ton, but I was able to connect with that one family, and they like gave me a personal tour, showed me around the island. Like it was incredible. And if you can go to a place like this and just connect with one person that is willing to like just be hospitable and kind of host you as a guest, then now instead of going as a tourist, now you're a guest, and that just changes your whole experience. It's incredible. The culture, the food, the music, like think about all of the amazing things that the Latin American culture has, and it's all accessible to you in greater abundance if you're able to speak with Spanish. Last point here on the very bottom. If I have someone, I'll show you a quote later on from him, but I worked with him, and he actually had a fiance who was Latin American, right? So he would go to family gatherings with her, and he's the only one that doesn't speak Spanish. So now he's the outcast. He's not able to connect with the family, right? So being able to learn Spanish, one, it shows his fiance like he cares about her, right? And then he wants to connect with her family. So you'll be able to have more rich relationships with your loved ones if they also speak Spanish. All right, let's get into a little bit of highlights on the problems. Hi, baby. Make sure I'm not missing anything. All right. So we already kind of talked about taking Spanish in high school. What about Duolingo? Who's used Duolingo before, right? Yeah? All right. There's other apps you can use, but I actually like Duolingo a lot. But if it's the only thing you're using to learn Spanish, it'll just take you a long time, right? And you're not getting that person-to-person connection. If you were one of the people that raised your hands earlier, you took Spanish in high school, or maybe you've used Duolingo, and you still don't have that confidence to speak yet, me too, right? I was there. We talked about how when I was 9, I started learning. It wasn't until I was 19 that I actually got that conversational ability, and it's because the education system that we're in, it's trying to make a cookie cutter approach that everyone can use. And like I said earlier, that retention piece is very difficult if you're learning how to ask someone where the bathroom is when what you really want to tell them is I love you, right? So when you make it your own, it helps out a lot, and that's just a tip. You can use it without anyone's help, and it'll help you. You're maybe learning random vocabulary from a textbook practice sheet, and you're not having those real conversations, right? The classroom, the teacher's setting the pace, all that stuff. Old motivation, or the old method, it kills your motivation, right? So you're putting all this time, all this effort in, and you're not getting the results that you're hoping to get back out of that effort you're putting in, and so your motivation goes down, you get bored, and you end up moving on, and you never reach that goal that you did invest a significant amount of time into, and it just never ends up happening, right? There is a better way. I've already talked about it a little bit. And I've spent a lot of time, I haven't mentioned it yet, but I'm actually still currently an officer in the Navy. Like, that's my day job. I was there at work yesterday helping out with Navy stuff, and I'll be back on Monday. But one thing that I have done is on my Navy ships, I still can't stop teaching Spanish. I'll find people that want to learn Spanish, and like when we get off watch, and they're about to go on watch, I'll sit down with them, I'll teach them Spanish. Like, I can't stop teaching Spanish. I just love doing it, right? But one thing I had to get really good at with doing that was really respecting their time, because we're like on the ship in the Navy, you got a lot of watch, you got a lot of responsibilities, a lot of stuff you got to do, and they just didn't have a lot of time. So I built a system where, if that sounds like you, where you have so many things on your plate, you don't feel like you have enough time to really make a difference. With the system I've developed, with the template I've made, like, regardless of how much time you have, if you have some time that you can invest, even if it's minutes each day or minutes a couple times a week, we can get you from wherever you're at to a point where you can walk into a business and talk to them. You can go to a family gathering and talk to them. We can get you where you want to go with very little time invested. And I designed it for people like you. All right, so your roadmap to fluency, the way it works. The way it works is you want to focus on consistency. So I'm developing a curriculum of daily micro lessons that you can listen to on your commute to work, or if you're going on a run or something like that, just something you can put on in the background, you can listen to it, and you can passively just get a little bit of exposure. And you can get some tips from me on stuff you can do to practice outside of that. Excuse me. The next thing is speak, right? So with each little daily micro lesson, I'm going to have challenges in there. One part that people struggle with when they're learning Spanish is they'll learn how to ask where is the bathroom, but they don't then take the time to learn what the other person's going to say back to them, right? So I don't know how to I know how to ask where the bathroom is, but when they tell me where the bathroom is, no idea what they're saying. Right? Right? So what my challenge will be is, okay, yeah, let's learn how to ask where the bathroom is, but then after that, let's come up with 4 possible responses that they could respond to you with, right? Let's start in English. Just come up with 4 responses of what they could say. They could say, oh yeah, go out these doors, walk down past the tables, and you'll see the door over there at the other end of the building, right? That's one way they could respond, but let's come up with 3 more, right? And let's just practice those 4. It's possible that when you actually get in that scenario and you ask them, ¿Dónde está el baño? Where's the bathroom? They're going to respond to you with option number 87 that you didn't think of, right? That's okay, right? Part of the experience of learning Spanish is putting yourself out there and getting yourself in those scenarios where they're going to use a word you haven't heard before. That's totally fine, right? Maybe you have to pull out your phone and Google it. Maybe you're just like, hey, I need to go ask the next person and hope they use one of the options I learned, right? But you need to get out there and practice speaking. And these daily challenges are meant to help aid you as you go through that process. And then the last part is connecting. I'm also building out a system where I'll be doing live trainings weekly with people where you can get on, ask me questions, I can help answer your questions, and we can also practice together live on the call and just really help build that confidence, all right? What's up? All right, so as far as options here, it depends on how much time you want to invest and then how much time you want me to invest, right? So for tier 1, this is for people who are motivated. You have what it takes to learn things on your own. Maybe you've learned another difficult skill on your own, so you really don't feel like you need a lot of hands-on guidance. I'm gonna make a crash course very similar to the 9-week crash course that I went through, and it'll guide you through it at your own pace. You can watch it. It'll be mostly pre-recorded videos, and that'll be an option for you. And again, not very much requirement as far as time investment from you, but it'll give you a consistent roadmap on where you need to go. Tier 2 is the mastermind. This is where that live coaching is going to come in, where we get together once a week as a community and we work together through all that stuff. So that'll be a little bit more hands-on. You'll have abilities to ask me questions on a weekly basis, and we'll keep in touch with each other and make sure you're making the progress you want to make. And then last one is like if you just really feel very strongly that what I'm sharing with you today is just like getting you pumped up and you want to work with me, you want to be able to message me in the morning and have me get back to you, on my lunch break or whatever, then I will have an option for people who want more hands-on help, more consistent help on a daily basis if they really want it. There will be an option for that as well, okay? Before I move on, are there any questions so far? We doing okay? All right, good to go. We talked about this. You don't need hours. You just need to be consistent. Mini lessons, so you can do it during your coffee break, during your Uber ride, waiting for a flight, whatever. Turn your downtime into a new superpower, right? So one thing that I did while I was on the ship, which is actually what got me into Cashwipe, is when other people would get off watch, I would go, and they would maybe go and watch shows on Netflix, right? I was going and I was researching entrepreneurship. I was researching ways to make money. That's how I found Paul through Instagram, was through that research that I did while I was on the ship. So that downtime that I had after watch, I was using it for something productive. Think about, for people who like to watch shows on Netflix, right? How many shows have you watched the entire show and it's got like 9 seasons, right? How much time did you invest in that TV show, all right? And now what do you have? If it's The Office, you got a lot of really good, funny jokes, right? So that's worthwhile. Okay, that's a good investment. But other shows maybe not so much. And just think about if you even spend a fraction of the amount of time that you spend maybe on Instagram or Facebook, just kind of scrolling through goofy videos, use that to learn Spanish, and you got a new superpower. Okay. All right, so here's the quote I told you about. This is the guy who has the fiance who speaks Spanish. Him and I worked on a Navy ship together, and him and I actually were on the same watch team. So if there was time on watch where there wasn't anything going on and we had a few minutes, I would just teach him Spanish, like whenever we could. So he had taken Spanish in high school, but he still couldn't really speak sentences. And he just said, after working with me, instead of sounding like a kid learning Spanish alphabet for the first time, he can actually use real sentences that make sense. And he said he's able to go to these family gatherings and actually connect with the family, and it's really helping him out. I have dozens of people like him that I've been able to help, and I would absolutely love to be a part of your journey learning Spanish. Here's my offer for today. Like I said, this is something I'm working on, right? So I'm putting together a beta cohort of my first group of clients that are going to do the online training with me. I've done stuff in the classroom. I've done one-on-one stuff before. I'm now working on putting together an online community that you can join. This QR code here is going to take you to the free community that I put together. That's where I'm going to start making a name for myself in the online space, and that's where we can start to connect with one another. You're also welcome to come up to me and just say hi after this. I'd love to chat with you and hear what your goals are. But please feel free to take out your phone, scan the QR code. You'll get access to my free community. And then as I'm building my actual coaching offer together, as I'm building that and doing the different tiers that I told you about earlier, if you join today the group here from this Miami event, send me a DM on school, which is where the free community is. You can find me in that community on there. Send me a DM that says Miami or something like that, and in the future you'll get even if it's 3 years from now that you reach out to me, if I can go back and see like, oh yeah, we met in Miami at the Swipe to Freedom event, then whatever tier you want to join at, you'll get 50% off, right? So I'm not ever going to offer this to again. If I ever do an offer, it's never going to be 50% again. So definitely take advantage, and I really appreciate everyone's time. And please come say hi if you have a chance. I'd love to meet you.